Powered by Riverside.
Hello, hello, hello. I really like that tune. I wish it didn't um, give free advertising for a venue that I'm paying for. However, that's the way capitalism works. So, welcome back. Welcome to the channel. If you are a subscriber, I am so honored and grateful that you thought it worthwhile to come back and watch me live to talk again about my sabbatical, my second chapter of my sabbatical. And I want to give a little bit of a background in a few minutes. However, let me also say if you are not yet a subscriber or you just popped into our world here on Sabbatical with DrCrystal, I am DrCrystal Harris. I am semi retired. I'm in a mini retirement um, after about 20 years of teaching in higher education, 17 and a half years at a public institution in Illinois near Chicago. And I am a social psychologist by training. I decided I wanted to focus on helping develop academics, particularly people of color who may not have had mentors in coaching, and to create a channel where those people would feel like they could get the resources they need, the advice they needed, they could ask tough questions, they could also find community amongst each other. I have a paid membership community called Lead and Liberate, which is a private space for those individuals to talk in a more focused way about their career challenges. So, on this channel, I am talking primarily not just about career, but about the sabbatical that I have been on and am taking and am planning for the future. So, if travel, career advice, wellness and mental health are things that are important to you, values that you share with our community, we would love to have you be a subscriber. We'd love for you to spread the word, hit the like button, and tell other people about what we're doing over here on this channel. As a former social psychologist, I would say it's a habit. I don't know if it's a good one or a bad one. Staying immersed in what's going on in the news and how society is being impacted by the social policies of both local, state, and federal government, or something that I spent 2 decades working on. And today I'm coming off of catching up on the news cycle. And honestly, it's primarily because the teachers union in Illinois was involved in, they sent out a newsletter about people getting involved in the most recent Hands Off Democracy April 6th protest march around the country. Excuse me. And of course, as a member of the 92%, I decided, I elected, selected and elected not to participate in an active way, but to encourage others to be involved. And the reason why I'm bringing that up now is I think it gets back to one of the issues that I want to cover today, which is what are the breakdowns and the breakthroughs that I had. And I'm going to talk really about the first sabbatical that was in Europe, that was in 2024, as well as the sabbatical, which is longer actually, but it's more broken up into chunks, that I just started in Central America and Mexico, starting it soon. I actually have a little cheat sheet that I created. Let's see if this is it. Here we go. Uh-oh, what did I do? I don't know why it's not staying up there. Okay, so I don't know if you could see that, but basically it is, um, I think it's going to flash up again for just a second. Yeah, it's not. It takes a minute to come and then it's only there for a second. Let's see if I change the layout, if that's going to help. Oh, it says it's playing. I'm sorry. I can't see it, but it says it's playing. Anyway, so these are the things that I'm going to be talking about today, which is a sabbatical is heavily dependent on you setting aside time to reflect on what you want to get out of your sabbatical and then scheduling the activities that support and are in alignment with those goals that you have. And as a result of that reflection, it's almost human nature that there are going to be some existential issues and some would say crises that are going to arise. In addition to that, we're also going to find that we need community. If you are choosing travel, solo travel abroad in an area where English is not primarily spoken, then that is also going to be an opportunity for you to do some deep reflection and some deep personal growth as you push yourself beyond to do that. There's also going to be times that you're going to need community, that you might feel lonely. There are going to be times that you are second guessing yourself and perhaps lacking confidence to do some of the things that you've scheduled to do for yourself. And there might be times that you actually are doing things that you're like, ooh, this is not for me. I should not. And that's the beauty, I think, of solo travel and of being on sabbatical is that as you learn and grow, you can adjust and you should adjust, and that of course is normal. So sorry, just checking my notes here. So how do you practice? So I also want to talk about my Spanish language learning journey, and how that also evolved when I was in Spain and how it looked differently when I was in San Jose. So those are kind of the four buckets that I want to cover today. And if I have questions, I would love it if you would make a comment. Let me know in the chat where you're listening from. If you are watching the replay, please let me know where you're watching from. And let me know if you've been on a sabbatical. What was your breakdown moment? If you don't mind sharing in a few words, what is the area where you felt like you had like a little mini meltdown? And I would love to hear more about that. So let me go to. Uh, so the first thing I'm going to talk about is the existential crisis. So what is an existential crisis? An existential crisis is a period of reflection where you're thinking about really deep issues such as the purpose of your life, your overall existence and trajectory. You're often looking at issues of personal identity, issues of freedom, justice, and morality. For myself, I think coming out of a second career, that's not to say that I may not go back into higher education in a different form. After this sabbatical, I was 10 years in corporate America, and so I had the experience of saying, these are the things about my professional life and career that don't align with what I want, and these are the things that I need in my next career. And I went about the process of training for that next career. And then, as I was um, offered the opportunity to do different aspects of that career, I felt like they resonated with me, and so I continued pursuing. So after I left corporate America, I had two master's degrees in counseling, and what I learned is that I did not want to be a counselor, but I thought I might want to teach about mental health and wellness and access to necessary services. So that's one of the things that was really important to me in the second career. What I liked about the idea of a career in higher education was I liked the schedule. In my mind, it was a schedule that really paid you to take time to think, to write, to read, to research, and these were all things that I really embraced. Let's see, we got the chat. Okay, yes, selected to rest, not all the things. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so happy that the chat is working. Yeah, so the existential crisis piece is basically about a sabbatical is a time set aside to rest and reflect. And earlier today, I watched a podcast called The Happy Engineer. And that host, I'm sorry, I forgot his name, really was interviewing a guest who wrote a book about sabbatical. And I actually want to, I am working on a free list of resources for people going on sabbatical that will be available on my Stan store. Maybe before I leave for Panama Monday, but soon, soonish. And her book will definitely be on it. It's available in Amazon. Her name is Lauren Nugan, I think is how it's pronounced. She's Asian American. She was a leader in engineering and project management, and she wrote a book. I think it's called The Career Compass. Don't quote me, but one of the points that she makes is that a lot of companies will give paid leave for up to 12 weeks for a mental health break or a sabbatical, as long as it's structured or negotiated in such a way that I guess your work can continue while you're gone. And the reason I say that is because I think the point that she made was that you probably do need a sabbatical, and what determines how long the sabbatical is what you need to accomplish and what you need to get out of a sabbatical. I personally have to give that more thought. I don't necessarily think that 3 months of a sabbatical, if you have the opportunity to be paid for a sabbatical, absolutely, and 12 weeks is what they'll give you, that's what you should do. However, I think that given what most of us are struggling with in our careers and in our professional lives, 3 months is not going to be sufficient time for you to actually heal and rest from most of the things that you have going on. Not for a woman of color, and in many cases, this would be your first sabbatical. So you've been working 5, 10, 15, 20, in my case, 17 and a half years before you went on sabbatical. Probably 3 months is not going to do it. And I will say that my first trip abroad, I was on sabbatical when I came back from that trip. But the reality is, I planned a 5 month sabbatical and I was gone 4 months and 1 week. And I really feel like the first 2 months was a blur, and I had too much going on. I would, knowing what I know now, not just about me, but the nature of rest, the nature of a sabbatical, the nature of going away and starting over and creating time to reflection, I would have completely redesigned that first 3 months after I left my job. So I had a retirement party. I came home, got ready to go to Europe, and then left. So there was really no break in between. And when I got to Europe, I was in the UK and I was house sitting. And I'm going to do a video specifically about house sitting. I haven't done house sitting in a while, primarily because of the trauma psychologically that I experienced trying to do 8 house sits in 11 weeks in Europe. I would say I had a good time and I made the best of it, but I had no idea how exhausting that was going to be, and I had no idea how exhausted I was. As much as I really loved and enjoyed the homeowners and most of the pets that I was in charge of during that time. So I would say that 3 months is not enough. It's just not sufficient. But the reason why I think a sabbatical is an existential crisis is because even in the time that you're planning and leading up to it and saving for it, so you have to make a decision to go. You have to make a decision about what you want to spend or how much it's going to cost you to do the things you want to do and how long you're going to be gone. And then you have to put a plan together to build those resources, whatever those are. It might be that you want to take a course that's only offered twice a year, or there's a waiting list to get in the course. That was something that was actually on my list. I ended up doing something else because I was like, oh, I'm not going to wait to get into that. And maybe you're saving money, and maybe you're decluttering and moving and selling all your stuff. I did all those things. So one of my first, I would say, mini meltdowns was realizing when I arrived in Georgia and I had gotten rid of pretty much all my stuff. I still have, I think now I'm down to maybe 6 boxes of books. I love books. And most of the things that I have continued to carry with me and consolidate have been things that have special emotional attachment to me and to different parts of my mental, intellectual, spiritual, psychological journey through my 20s, 30s, 40s, and beyond. So, understanding how your career fits into what you envision as a successful life is going to be really important for you to know, because when you come out of your sabbatical, you're going to have to deal with, well, what am I going to do next? Am I going back to the exact same thing? I believe that sabbatical, and particularly a sabbatical that's focused on travel, is going to expose you and grow you up so much till you literally won't fit into your old life, and so there are going to be some massive changes. And so that's what I mean by these deep questions that are kind of causing a crisis. The reality is, you're having, it feels like a crisis because you're normal, because you're human, because you're doing a lot of things, and our brains have the capacity to sometimes work overtime and catastrophize these stressful feelings. It's possible, and this was also something that happened in the podcast I was watching this morning. It's possible that if you already a person that has a certain amount of insecurity, you might think, well, I shouldn't go on sabbatical because I'll never get another job. Well, that's not true. You will definitely, first of all, you could create a job if you can't get a job, but you can get a job. Now, might you get a job that is not a perfect fit for you or not an ideal fit for you if you jump too soon? Certainly, those are all questions worth working on with a career coach, with a therapist, maybe both. It's also an existential crisis because you're spending so much time alone, you're spending a lot of time thinking. One of the habits that I had in place before I went on sabbatical that served me well was journaling. I also made an effort to start this YouTube channel so I could chronicle for my own personal growth what I was experiencing as I went through the European chapter of my first sabbatical. And I'll be honest with you, that plan was very ambitious. I think I did. I don't even remember how many episodes I did, but I did do a handful of episodes during those 4 months. What I will say is that I am now I have some workflows and processes that I think are very sustainable, very manageable, and so I will be continuing to go live or post a recorded video every Wednesday evening. So, what success looks like for me as a content creator on YouTube is different than what it looked like even 9 months ago before I decided to leave. I think I have learned and appreciated so much the people who've created content about their experiences, till I almost feel like it's such a privilege and such an honor to be on sabbatical, to be having these experiences, and that to not share them with other people who are going to be sort of next up in the journey would be like a shame, would be like a really bad loss. So, I have another comment here from Not All the Things. And she says, I had a sabbatical in 2011, 2012, and I co founded a school in Zimbabwe, and it helped me realize how much I loved international work and not be tethered to a school. Yes, yes, I could see that. I could see that. And I think that's a great example. Like, that's a very, like, I don't know if you took the sabbatical in order to found a school or this particular school, but I think that's also sort of like what my heart, like when I think, so sabbatical, why, one of the reasons why it's an existential crisis, you have this opportunity to think about, if money and time were no object and I could do anything, what would I plan to do? What would I create? And so then you have this time to plan and create something. And so it's easy to try a couple things and be like, this isn't it, this isn't it. And so there's like this restlessness of soul, restlessness of spirit that you really have to nurture and take care of, and also be prepared to find like that great love, that great passion project, and pour into that. So I think if I won't say if, but as I intend to continue to take sabbaticals, even though I will return to work in some form or fashion, I believe that I will also be taking sabbaticals as I continue to get clearer. In my mind, I actually have a vision of that, and I don't want to get off track and talk too much about that today. But I actually have a vision of exactly what I want to build and exactly what I want to do. And so I appreciate that comment, Dr. Davia. And I think that is so amazing that, like, if you get a chance to get away and rest and thrive, you do sort of maybe fall into, or you create opportunities for this big dream, this big passion project to begin to come alive, and to explore resources of what it would look like to be a part of that. So the other thing that is a big part of, I started on this last Wednesday, of my sabbatical journey has been this idea of recovery and healing. And so for me, healing is an important theme in everything I do. So when I left the UK and went to Spain, I went with the intention of that being a 2 month period to focus on health and healing. And so I did a meditation and detox retreat. I'm not going to be able to remember the name of the city, but it's south of Barcelona. It was deep, deep in the mountain with these amazing views. And I apologize that I don't have the pictures ready. I did actually create content on Instagram when I was there. And so I don't have it available to share with you here, which is a shame. But anyway, it was a wonderful experience. I found it on a website that helps you find retreats. You tell them how long you want to go, what your budget is, what region of the world you're going to be in, and it gives you a list of options. And it was a wonderful experience. It was a retreat also where I shared a very intimate bonding, connecting relationship with four other strangers. There's five altogether. And my roommate and the young woman who was partnered with me, she had an allergic reaction and ended up going home early. So it ended up being a really intimate retreat. So, but it was a great experience. I have not kept up the ritual of detoxing as I had hoped. So that was one thing that I planned to do. And even in that, I would say there was a little bit of a of an awakening of a desire to spend more time in quiet. I don't think I was a person who really appreciated the power of silence and quiet. If silence and spending time in meditation is something that is important to you or that you found valuable, I would love to hear in the chat, if that's something that is important to you. And maybe even share like how often you do it. I'm thinking about creating more opportunities through this channel to offer those types of resources. And I use Insight Timer, which is an app that is very helpful for my meditation practice. And that was something I did before the retreat. And then after the retreat, I am able to do it really without the support of the app. I could really do it myself. But I still love Insight Timer. So, in addition to that, I did a 6 day yoga retreat. I had a friend, a very close friend from Texas, fly in. Her daughter also came, and we sort of did a homestay, I guess it's called. So we were in someone's home, staying in these individual suites. And then every morning we got up at 7 a.m. and had yoga, and then we would come upstairs and have breakfast. We had the afternoon, evening pretty much to ourselves to explore the community, sightsee. And it was just a wonderful, wonderful experience, a wonderful property. The host there really connected with us. Again, a very intimate setting. There were just the three of us. She has 3 rooms, and we took all 3 of them. So in theory, if I had gone by myself, I would have been perhaps with two other people I didn't know. So and so what did I mean by healing in chaos? So what I mean by healing in chaos is that you're basically having sort of this inner turmoil and this inner conflict. It feels like a lot of uncertainty. It feels like a lot of insecurity about the way forward and the future. Um, for me, that was disconcerting. For some reason, I did not expect to feel that level of inner turmoil. I will be honest with you. However, I really leaned into it once. I guess when I got to Spain, I'd already been gone 2 months. I also started to feel a lot of loneliness and missing my family. Being able to look forward to being with my friend from Texas and her daughter, that was super wonderful, and that really cheered me up. And that actually helped me. It was sort of toward the end of the experience. I was actually 10 days from going home when that yoga retreat was over. So that leads me to another breakdown that a lot of people have done content on this, and I thought it was important for me to speak to it too. Is what are the struggles of being a solo traveler? And so, if you looked at my thumbnail, you probably saw I have this woman in the window shaking her head, going like this. That was me on so many occasions. It just felt like it was so much work, so much mental lifting to plan excursions, the transportation, the budgeting. Of course, the longer you go, the more unexpected things are going to happen to the pot of money that you set aside to spend. And so I had a little bit of a cash flow ripple where I had some funds that were supposed to come available, but they didn't come available when I needed them to come available. And the good news was I have a lot of friends and people who love me. So I was able to kind of have a little band-aid over that little blip, and basically I was able to do almost everything I wanted to do. There was one other place I was supposed to go. I came home 3 weeks early, and so I didn't get to go to that place. But what's nice about being a solo traveler is if you are, I don't know, if you consider on a scale of 1 to 5, one is maybe a hostel where you are in a room with 10 other strangers or nine other strangers, and say 5 is a 5-star resort that's all inclusive, that has all the amenities and everything you could ever want in your heart's desire. I probably planned my sabbatical to be at a 3.5. I did a little bit of, you know, 3-star, 4-star hotels. I did a little bit of 2-star, 3-star, I mean, Airbnbs that were not, um, I mean, they were clean, they were safe, but I was staying in someone's home. It was not a place all to myself. So as a result of that, it was very budget friendly. And so I was able to negotiate um, unique lodging arrangements. I found that all of the places I went, the food was pretty affordable, just not delicious. I'll be honest, I actually spent a lot of money on food at good so called better quality restaurants, more fine, I wouldn't say fine dining, but I don't know, near fine dining level, that were not worth it, honestly. Some of the best food I had was more working people's food, daily local people's food. That was true in San Jose, Costa Rica as well when I was there. And also some countries and some cities are just better known for good food. I had some amazing Indian food while I was there. For some reason, the Indian food is always on point with the flavor. So I want to talk a little bit also about the loneliness piece because that's something that people are saying, and the safety piece. So when it comes to the idea of loneliness, I'll be honest with you. I felt like I missed like being around my kids, hanging with my kids. Everybody else, I pretty much spent a lot of time on the phone and texting. I'm in some WhatsApp groups with multiple people for different things, including Spanish language, YouTubers, in WhatsApp groups, and then we have monthly meetings or periodic meetings. I can't even really say they're monthly. Even the group that supposedly meets every other week doesn't meet every other week. But I do get to see people that I know and people who know me, and there's something about putting your eyes on people who care about you, which really, I don't know, warms the soul, and just having people ask questions about how you're doing. So that piece I felt like I did a great job planning for in the European thing. When I was in the medical or dental tourism, I alluded to the fact, and unfortunately, one of the pictures that I saved to share, I did not, it didn't, for some reason, it's not uploading correctly. But I met a wonderful woman. Actually, I met two sisters. We came on the same plane together into Costa Rica and rode to the same hotel. And then when we checked in together, the person in charge of the hotel check-in decided to make us neighbors. So we stayed next door to each other in these beautiful apartments. But their dental work was at a different place. So one of the sisters was there, had more serious work, and was there longer. And we had a wonderful time hanging out together and eating our various liquid and soft food diets. And then later on, we both stayed beyond the week of dental tourism into another area of San Jose in an Airbnb. And she chose, I had already booked my Airbnb, and she chose to stay at the place that I was staying in the same building so that we could continue our, little friendship hangout. And so that was really wonderful. And I really enjoyed meeting them and being able to just share what you're going through. And they were both from Montana, English speakers. However, one of the sisters had lived in Mexico for quite a while and was very fluent in Spanish. And so it was nice watching her, for example, when we went to the market to be able to negotiate. I later went back to the same vendors myself and had to speak Spanish by myself. So I think as far as loneliness goes, there's so many creative ways that you can combat loneliness. Now, I realize as an extrovert who doesn't mind talking to strangers, my my go-to is usually that I need downtime, even though I'm an extrovert, because converting to speaking Spanish all the time in a Spanish-speaking country is very emotionally taxing, so my brain gets tired. And so let me switch now to talking about, although I realize I didn't talk about safety yet, I'll come back to that. I want to talk about my Spanish language learning journey. And what I want to say about that is that the very first time I started traveling, it was for the specific purpose of improving my Spanish. So I went to Puerto Rico with my daughter, and oh my gosh, God help us. God was really looking after us because my Spanish was so terrible and so limited. I don't know what possessed me after a year, maybe 2 years on Duolingo. I don't even think I was seeing a private tutor at that time. Yeah, I think I was just doing Duolingo and just whatever I thought. Anyway, so I could order a cup of coffee. I could get in an Uber and ask the driver how he was doing. Was he having a nice day and did he like the weather? That was pretty much it. I could say good morning, please, thank you. Yeah, that was it. That was pretty much it. And anyway, so after that, the following year, I went to Mexico, and that was when I started using a tutor. I actually got in a group class that did not work for me, did not learn well. I got very frustrated because I was at the point where I really needed to buckle down and commit. And my commitment level was not where I wanted to travel and have fun and be able to be fluent or fluent-ish, but I was not willing to put the work in. And so I went to Mexico for 3 weeks. And again, I actually learned how to use the Google Translate app very proficiently. And what I would do is I would have a conversation with the app and write down what it said, and I would practice what it's saying and you know what like a normal response would be, and then I would go have those conversations downstairs. I stayed in a wonderful Airbnb in Playa del Carmen, where the what are they called? Front desk workers, employees within the building. I stayed in the same place for I don't know if it's 10 days or 12 days. But anyway, it was a small building, so they knew me, they saw me. You know, not that many people lived there, looked like me. So, and every day I would have like a little bit more confidence and a little bit more longer conversation with them. And they were also, that was where I began to get to know people who wanted to improve their English. And so I would have conversations with them. I would speak Spanish, they would speak English. I would correct them, they would correct me. It was a beautiful thing. And so that went on for very, I would say starting like day 4 or 5. So by the time I left, we were really good friends. As good of friends as you can be when you barely speak English and you barely speak Spanish and they barely speak English. So that being said, I proceeded to then get really serious about hiring a tutor. I set a goal. By then, I knew I was retiring the next year, although I changed the date twice. I knew that I wanted to go to Europe, and I knew that I wanted to go to Spain because people kept saying in Mexico, well, you know, what you guys learn in the US is Spain Spanish, it's not Mexican Spanish. So that made me think, okay, well, I'll go to Spain and I will spend, 3 months there, however long they let me stay. And that will be my emergence experience, and I will take lessons until then. And then I was committed because I knew I was going to be in Spain. I knew I was going to be in Airbnb, and I knew I was going to not have the type of community probably that I would need in order to evolve organically in terms of my Spanish. So I really wanted to go there with a good baseline of how to have conversations. And of course, life happened. I got distracted. We had so many different things going on at work. We don't want to talk about that. So going back to talk healing in chaos, there were literally some things happened that were very toxic, very unhealthy, and very damaging to me. Uh, I think my career was going okay, I'll be honest with you. And especially once I decided, even before I announced I was leaving, I decided I was leaving. And that really elevated my spirits because I began to have this view of, well, I can do anything for 1 more year. I can do anything for 8 more months. I can do anything for 5 more months. And then I told them, and I changed the date because of the needs of the department, which I tried to accommodate. And I still felt like even more of a lift now that people know that I'm leaving. And I'm literally wrapping up projects, delegating work, identifying people to take on projects, designing new classes. And I also stepped out of a leadership role, I'll be honest with you, that created more mental space and mental energy for me to be able to do the work that I really loved as a faculty member and as a leader in my discipline. So the Spanish language journey for me is now at a place where I have tutoring twice a week. I have two tutors for different types of tutoring, types of learning. And I also listen to Spanish music every day. I don't know all the words. I usually pick music that I like the music. And when I first select the song or when I first hear the song, I will Google the lyrics in English so I have an idea what the song is about. But I just practice learning it sort of like you would listen to a song in English, right? Because you enjoy the music. And I feel like that really works for me. Eventually you pick up phrases from the song and you'll start hearing them out in the world while you're traveling. You're like, oh, I know that song. Actually, it happened to me twice while I was in Spain that a song came on the radio where somebody was playing it in loudly in their earpods. And I was sitting next to them on the bus. I was like, I know that song. So I was pretty geeked about that. I never went out to any live recorded, live music events, which is something that I plan to do in Panama. I hope to attend at least one live music event because I do enjoy music. I think it's a good way to learn, it's a good way to meet people. It's a good way to combat loneliness and have more of a local experience. And I think music is also very soothing and healing for the soul as well. So it also fits with the theme of healing and nurturing yourself and finding joy and fun in your experiences. So I just want to go back a little bit and talk about the solo travel struggles. I am a person who doesn't like to be out at night, even here when I'm at home with my family. So I never really engaged in much going out after dark. However, I can be gone all day long and be super tired and exhausted being gone all day long. So I would say for me, I never was in a situation where I would feel unsafe during the day. If I'd gone out at night, I suspect I would not have felt unsafe. It's just more that as a woman over 50 traveling alone, I just feel like I need to figure out how to do what I want to do in the daytime. Now, what is different coming up, I am once again meeting some friends in my trip to Panama. And also, my son is going to be joining me for a part of my trip to Panama. So I'll be there by myself for almost 2 weeks, and then I'll have lots of company coming because it's my birth month, actually. They're coming to celebrate my birthday with me. Um, so that's important because I think I want to plan to do some evening activities, sort of like a music or dancing or something like that during the time that they're there because I feel like there's, safety in numbers. The places that we stay are all very accessible to Uber. I think that is another key for safety for me. I did ride plenty of public transportation in my travels in Europe and I loved it and I felt very safe and comfortable. Talked to lots of strangers. This is how I knew my Spanish was beginning to evolve is that I would strike up a conversation intentionally. I would not avoid conversations with local people. And, we would get to a point where I'd be like, I speak a little Spanish. I would have to admit that I was, an intermediate Spanish speaker and I could not understand what they said. I'd ask them to repeat it if they'd slow down. But in the first 5, 7 minutes, I think they would know, but they wouldn't know that my Spanish was as evolving or emerging as it actually was. So I would say if you're a solo traveler and you want to go on sabbatical in a place where maybe it's not ideal for solo travelers, there are lots of group trips that you can do with other people, and I would strongly encourage you to research those. I am feeling that way about going to Ghana around a group trip. I know I thought at first I would go to Ghana by myself, and then I said, well, maybe I'll go to South Africa because people said, well, that's probably a better match because there's so many Americans there. It's more Americanized. But I really want to see Ghana, so I feel like I'm going to have to invest in it, save up for a group trip to Ghana because I really want to go, and I don't feel like it's a place I should go by myself. Correct me if I'm wrong. If you think going planning a solo trip to Ghana is doing. I mean, I know people do it. I'm just wondering if I should be doing it. So that's sort of my thought. So one thing I want to share that is something that I really loved that was in the podcast that I listened to, The Happy Engineer, from Laura Nugan. And she was actually quoting another book that she loves, which I'm not going to quote because I haven't read it, don't know anything about how this quote read. And I've changed this question to work with my process. So, I love journaling, and I think this question really gets at where I would invite you to do some reflection. What are the ingredients that define and measure a successful life? For me, the question is, as I get ready to leave, I'm literally 3 days. I have stuff everywhere in this house to go to Panama, and I'll be gone for a total of 6 or 7 weeks in Central America. Is what are the ingredients that define and measure a successful sabbatical? How will I know that my sabbatical was the success that I wanted it to be, that it was aligned with my goals when it comes to health, when it comes to language learning, when it comes to exploring music, comes to exploring culture? Another goal that I have for this next is spirituality and faith is really important to me. So I plan on worshiping at a church, an English speaking church, and a church that's either Spanish speaking or that has both languages being spoken during the service. So I'll keep you posted on how that goes. I see I have another comment. And so I'd love to know for you, if you're watching this now in the replay, what would you say are some of the ingredients that define and measure a successful life for you? And for me, going forward, having intentional time to invoke this sabbatical mindset of taking sabbaticals, taking time to rest is foundational. Rest of my life. So let's see this other chat. We have Ashley. I love solo traveling because you don't have to compromise your itinerary, but it's also nice to travel sometimes in a group. Yes, absolutely. Yes. I'll be honest with you. At this point, I've now done more solo traveling than I have group travel. And the group travel I've done has been with like one other person, my daughter or my son, or a friend. I have not done a lot of big group travel. I remember in a whole different phase of life, maybe when the kids were young, we used to do these big family bus trips where we'd all go together as a family with other families' places. And honestly, I think that was fun in that season of life, but I think that is probably closer to my idea of hell at this age. To be on a bus with a bunch of other people, with kids. I don't know. Maybe when I'm in my grandparenting era, I'll feel differently. But right now, that doesn't feel like something I would want to do on purpose for fun. But you never know because we're always changing, we're always evolving. You never know what you're going to find exciting and challenge and or challenging for the future. So thank you all. I want to close by inviting you to check out my stand store. I have a sabbatical planning guide and my stand store address. I think I made a thing for this. Did I? Yes, so the Sabbatical Planning Guide is a digital download. It's available at stan.store / DrCrystal. That's basically one of my social media. I've even claimed that name on Blue Sky and something else that's brand new that I'm not on, but I wanted to make sure my name was available. Crystal Harris is a kind of a common name, so I always have to put Dr. Crystal Harris, and sometimes I put periods between. But the Stan store is just / Dr. Crystal. No Harris, no periods. So check that out. Preview it. You can see some of the pages when you go to look at it. It is for available for purchase. There is in my Stan store a place that says free resources. I literally have 3 free resources in the works, and none of them are finished. So that was a goal that I had for this break. I've been home for what 2 weeks? I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks since I came back with my dental treatment, dental tourism. So if you didn't watch last week's video about San Jose, Costa Rica, and my experience with dental tourism, please go back and watch that video next. And thank you so much for watching. And if you found this helpful, remember to like the video. Thank you for your comments. Give me a comment where you're from. And if you've been on sabbatical and you've had an opportunity to have a breakdown and a breakthrough, by all means, please do that. I'm sure I will have plenty more future breakdowns and breakthroughs in this next. I'm going to be gone a total. I'm going to be gone until September, basically. I don't know how many months that is. So I am going to be popping back into the U.S. for a 3-day event, a 2-day wedding, that type of thing. But I won't actually be living in the U.S. again until maybe September. It's still out where I will be going in September after I come back to Chicago for the wedding. So stay tuned. So that's it for today. I am so grateful that I had this time with you, and I will see you next week. Bye bye.